This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
Let's bring him aboard, the man, the myth, the legend. That is Will Carroll. Follow him on Twitter at Injury Expert. How you feeling, my man? How was your Christmas?
I'm feeling. My Christmas was great. I hope yours was great. Hope it was great for all the listeners. Hope it was better than it has been for the Dolphins over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. So, Will, I know you're part of. I know that company that you work for makes those sensors to keep track of pitchers and the velocity and the weight and the wear and tear and all that. So I want to ask you this, okay? Because I thought about this and I'm wondering, and I know why they're not doing it because they don't want to do it. But if they really wanted to, Will, is the technology there to put it inside a helmet where they could?
It already exists.
Okay.
Look, this has existed for years. It's called Insight, and it's made by Riddell, one of the largest helmet companies. It's made specifically for those helmets. There's other helmet manufacturers. There's Schutt, there's Zenith, there's a number of others. But the underlying technology exists. Now, would the NFL allow it in their helmets? No, absolutely not. They have not allowed that. They do not allow any technology that can detect them. There are other systems that are out there. There are some that are in a chin strap. There's some that are in a mouthpiece. There's varying studies on some of these. The best one I know of is the Riddell Insight. About 10 years ago, maybe even longer than that, Purdue did a big study on this using a very similar system. They looked at a couple high schools and just got crazy data from it. So the technology has been around for years. We just have to, use it.
They don't want to.
Yeah.
Bro. Are you going to put those sensors on linemen and linebackers and running backs? And how many? I was just talking about how many concussions are happening in every boxing match. Come on,
that's
man.
the thing. Here's the thing: is we need to acknowledge we don't know enough about concussions. We haven't done enough research. In the NFL, they've done better, certainly better than they did 10, 15 years ago when they covered everything up. They paid for that. They've done better. We saw earlier this year when everything fell apart with Tagovailoa, they changed the policy like that. They and the NFLPA got together, did what they could to fix it. Is it perfect? No, but let's give them credit for trying to fix it where they can. Now, on the other hand, we just don't know enough. So why aren't they putting more money into research? Think about this. I mentioned that Purdue study. One of the things they did was take a look at how big is an impact? When can you judge some number? Is there some line where you get 85 Gs, 90 Gs? Is that hit? One of the biggest hits they had was 100, and I want to say it was 110, 120 Gs. That's like a car crash. When an Indy car or a NASCAR goes into the wall, you're looking at 100, 110 Gs. This was that level. And they were like, holy cow, where was this? So they went back on the video. They have it timestamped. And it turns out it was two freshmen that were just trying to fire themselves up and were headbutting each other. They showed no symptoms. They weren't in the game. They were just being dumb kids, as dumb high school kids will do. But we're seeing, these big car crash level hits and then no symptoms. Sometimes guys will have symptoms the day after. I remember Andrew Luck having a situation like that where he came back the next day, said, I have a headache. And they go, you're in the concussion protocol. Right. He was fine. We don't know. How about linemen who are getting, they're knocking heads on virtually every play.
Every play.
Sometimes you see guys get knocked out. They pop back up. I mean, they do the whole Tyson Fury thing where they kind of Undertaker it back up, and those happen. We just don't know. There was another product, Isaiah Kaczynski, who was a Harvard player and then played in the NFL for a while. I think he was a long snapper. He invented a product that did much like what we were talking about. You wore it. It was a cap that had some sensors in it. It had a light that kind of came out the top of the helmet. And I was like, this is brilliant. The problem was the kids turned it into a game. They were trying to light guys up, literally. So it didn't catch on. The unintended consequences got them there. But, to answer your question in a very long-winded manner, yes, the technology exists. Yes, the NFL could put it out there. No, we don't know enough to make it work.
Yeah. And here's the other thing. Help us out with this because, okay, so the first one against Buffalo wasn't diagnosed at that moment. And then when they went and
Right.
checked him, he didn't have concussion, but we all saw him get woozy after he got hit. So something went on there. Something got rattled there for sure. So then you have the other one 4 days later with the Bengals. And now you look at this hit, and it wasn't nearly as vicious as the last two.
Yeah.
So is he now kind of, because you're old enough, dude, Eric Lindros, it was less and less that it took him to get concussed. Luke Kuechly, it was less and less that took him to get concussed. Steve Young, it was less and less that took him to get concussed. Is that what the Dolphins are risking if they keep putting Tua out there this year, or are they better off just letting him relax, letting him rest, let his brain and his head completely heal for next off season? Because it kind of seems, Will, that they're now coming off easier, and it reminds me of some of those guys.
Yeah,
so please,
I don't buy that though. Especially with Lindros, we did before 2010. We pretty much just got to acknowledge we know nothing. We didn't treat them well. We didn't heal them well. It was just bad. Kuechly's probably kind of patient zero. And I think he's probably the best example. He got more concussions, largely because he led with his head. I don't want to blame him for this, but he led with his head. It was a tackling technique that worked for him. He was a hell of a defensive player, but he led with his head. We see the same thing with Derwin James, and he got tossed out of the game the other day, deservedly so. We're trying to take that part out of the game. You're old enough to remember those VHS tapes we all got in our stockings that were like the NFL's biggest hits, where these guys getting their heads knocked off virtually. So the game has changed. What happens is I don't think it's less and less force that it takes, because we honestly don't know the force. Again, small hits can cause concussion. Big hits can cause nothing. We just don't know. What we're doing is reading symptoms. So I think what happens, and this was the case with Kuechly, he understood the symptoms more. So he was looking for them. And it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. He would get those symptoms. He would realize he was concussed at some level. And eventually he just talked himself out of football, which was fine. And this is what Tua and every other player needs to do. When you have a concussion, when you have an injury, when you have anything, heck, Tom Brady does this every year. Do I want to play this game? Do I feel safe? Is it worth the risk I'm taking, where I could end up with my brain scrambled, and that I'm, like all these older players, Jim McMahon, probably the worst example right now, for millions of dollars? Is it worth it? If you can answer an emphatic yes, you shouldn't be out there. And I don't like some of these doctors and pundits saying, we have to determine 3 strikes and you're out. If you have 3 concussions, you're done. How many players have had 3 concussions in a game? You talk about boxing. That is a sport designed to concuss. The UFC, designed to concuss. It's different. You're not playing the next week in those situations. And again, we've changed how we treat them, how we diagnose them, the 60-day locks and things like that. You just can't do that with football. So I think what we have to do is put more and more research. We've got to acknowledge we don't know enough here in 2022. We need to know more by 2032. And if the NFL, with all their billions of dollars, how much do they just get from Google? Well, let's put a percentage of that towards research that will not only help the NFL have a better product, because having their players on the field more often is a better product, as we're going to see tonight in the Tennessee game. That's going to be so bad. I'm going to watch just to see Al Michaels at the start. We need to make this a better game, but it's the kids. It's the high school kids. It's the college kids. It's the little Pop Warner kids looking like a bobblehead out there. We've got to do more for those, and the NFL should lead the way because it's the one with the big stack.
Good stuff as always. If people want to follow you, what do they do?
Yeah, if you're still on the cesspool that is Twitter, you can follow me at Injury Expert. Or if you want my baseball stuff, you can subscribe over at undertheknife.substack.com. If you're a gambler, check me out over at the Lines where I'm doing all the football injuries this year.
There you go. He is the man when it comes to all of that. Nobody provides better insight than him. Will Carroll, the injury expert. Will, as always, appreciate you, my brother. Have a great New Year's, my friend, man. Thank you.
Been too long. I'll see you at the Combine.
You got it. That's right. I'll see you at the Combine, baby. You be good. There you go. Will Carroll, man, as promised. How about that? There you go.